but then they dropped, and beef dropped, replacements dropped, and they are still kind of low, but it's very, not to get too far off the subject, but right now, if you sell dairy cows on the Canadian border right now, you can get 18, $1,500 to $1,900 all day long for a good dairy cow. You can't get that anywhere else in the state, but Canada has recently expanded their quotas, so Canadian dairy farmers are looking for decent cows. So cattle dealers will go up into the North Country, where it's closer to get them over the border, and they're buying them and paying a good price. Whereas I had another guy who sent 25 decent replacement cows. They weren't top of the line, but they certainly weren't, bottom of the barrel cows. But they were all mid-lactation, decent dairy cows, a lot of them were bred. He just sent them to Hoskins auction out in New Berlin, and he averaged $625 a head for him. And then he had to pay commission and trucking on top of that. So whereas if he had found a dealer who could take him north for him, he would have gotten a lot more. So sorry to get off track.
No, it's fine.
Alright, you guys want Matt to go over farm storage facility loans a little bit, or did you see that?
I guess for hay and forage, because that would be good to know for our end, just based on storing hay and where it needs to be, and I guess also I can pass the information on to the farmer I work for. So.
What part of the farm storage facility loan presentation did you guys come in and catch before?
I think we were on the last maybe 40%, or maybe.
I think the loan rates screen was
Okay,
up
we're on the
there, so
loan
we were,
rate screen.
yeah, so we were
Okay.
about 4 screens behind.
Okay, so basically, farm storage facility loans are administered by the farm program staff, which is myself. So I'm the county executive director for FSA here in Columbia and Greene County. And to give you a little bit of background on farm storage facility loans, essentially we're able to give these loans to people who are able to get commercial credit elsewhere, unlike Chris's loans, which you have to not be able to get commercial credit. And the reason is that all of these loans date back to when they were simply for grain bins. And the idea of them was, we're going to loan you money so you can put up a bigger grain bin so you can store your grain for longer, so that you can get a decent price in the market if you've got big fluctuations in price. So that's sort of the root of where farm storage facility loans are from. Nowadays, we're able to do loans on basically everything, including, hay and forage crops. So as far as hay and forage goes, we can do loans on hay barns, either a pole structure or another type of hay storage structure. We can do loans for, a bunk silo, or an actual upright silo, not that anyone would put up an upright silo anymore. But we could give you a loan for it. Likewise, originally these loans were simply for permanent structures, so a grain bin, something like that. Nowadays, farm storage facility loans can also be used for other things. So they can be used for portable equipment, portable storage structures, handling equipment. A good example of sort of forage equipment which we're able to loan on now is if you needed a bale wrapper, we can do a farm storage facility loan for a bale wrapper, to sort of allow you to get out there in the field, cut a little bit faster, and put up some higher quality forage than what you'd be able to do with just a baler and doing dry hay. So nowadays, farm storage facility loans can really be used for a lot more stuff. But they're still a little bit more restrictive in what they can or cannot be used for than what Chris's loans can be used for. So, like the original intention of the loan I mentioned, the idea is still that it's to sort of either store a commodity or a crop, or sort of allow you to handle that commodity and crop. It's not to provide sort of retail display space or anything like that. But in your case, you could use a farm storage facility loan if you wanted to, put in freezer space for some of your cuts of lamb or something like that, and it could be anything from, a big commercial sized, freezer down to, we could give you a farm storage facility loan for a nice quality, just chest freezer, something like that, So there's some versatility in terms of farm storage facility loans, in that now we can loan you money for portable equipment. And the other good thing with that is it's also sort of allowed us to make loans a little bit easier to obtain. So in the past, when there was simply a permanent structure, farm storage facility loans, before we paid you the money, you had to be done building the whole structure, everything like that. Now that we're doing loans for portable equipment, we can give you money before you buy it, but you've still got to have some sort of a sales contract or something like that saying, okay, we're buying this piece of equipment, or we're buying this chest freezer, this is how much it's going to cost, So we need some sort of documentation showing you are going to indeed be buying this specific piece of equipment, and then after you buy it, we're going to have to come out and sort of take a look at it, take some pictures, and say, okay, yep, you spent that money which we gave you on this particular item. But it does give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of being able to get those funds ahead of time to purchase the equipment you need. If you were looking to put up a pole barn or something like that, we'd still sort of be tied to those same old rules for farm storage facility loans, in that you have to basically, get done building it, which the problem there is you might not be able to always get a contractor to come out and build a large facility without a down payment, So that would be one issue you might run into with a farm storage facility loan for a permanent structure, that we cannot give you the money for the thing up front.
Now, is there like a specific checklist of what the building, could it be like a Morton building, that type of structure?
Yeah, it could be any sort of pole barn structure or anything that would normally be used for storing, hay or something like that. Another sort of thing to keep in mind with farm storage facility loans, especially with hay barns, is lots of time people also want to put, their tractor or other equipment in the hay barn when there's not hay used in it. You can technically do that, but you're supposed to ask for a waiver from the county committee saying, we intend to put our tractor or our, baler in this barn and it's not full of hay. And the county committee can say, okay, that's okay. I don't think anyone has ever been caught putting their tractor or hay barn, because we're not going out and inspecting it. But technically, the structure is supposed to be being used for that storage purpose and not for, some other uses, for at least as long as the loan is there. And we do a sort of mid-loan inspection of that facility. So depending on what the loan term is, we'd be going out in year 3 or something like that, looking at a facility, and if you had your big tractor and, your baler in there and you hadn't called the county office, I might say, you need to move that out at the moment and write us a letter saying, can I put this in here, But yeah. Let's see. Do you have any other sort of specific questions about farm storage facility loans? I think I sort of got a little bit off topic on that. They're basically the same in a lot of ways as Chris's loans. They're used for more specific things. They've got lower interest rates, and they can sometimes even be used in conjunction with, one of Chris's farm loans, because basically they're coming from 2 separate pots of money. So when Chris was mentioning, there's sort of an upper limit for the micro loan option for his farm loans, because our money's coming from a different pot. You could get a micro loan, farm operating loan, and you could get, a farm storage facility loan, and they're coming out of different pots and they don't count against each other at all. So it would allow you to sort of stay within a micro loan option on both sides. Another thing to keep in mind with farm storage facility loans, most you can take out is about $500,000, and there is a down payment that's required. So basically what that means is when everything's said and done, we're not loaning you the full amount of the loan, we're loaning you, either 85% if it's a regular loan over $50,000, or we're loaning you 95% if it's a micro loan under $50,000. And there's certain instances where if you're able to make a higher down payment, you might want to, because some of our security requirements are a little bit different than Chris's, and we can sort of give you a little bit more leniency in terms of what we're taking collateral as a loan. So we're not required to take 150% or 100% as long as we're under $100,000 for the total farm storage facility loan. We're just taking whatever you're buying as collateral. So if you're putting up a pole barn, we're taking that pole barn as collateral. We're not necessarily taking your house or chattel or anything like that. Do you have any other questions about those, or no?
I don't think, I guess maybe if the facility maybe served two purposes, as if, because I know how sort of versatile you can get buildings now or build buildings. If hay was stored in the back, and say one of the doorways to get in the building, you had an open chest freezer, and that's where cuts of land was stored. Is that like a no-no, or?
No, I mean, if you're building a building and you're using part for hay storage and you're using part for storing another eligible commodity, that wouldn't be an issue. Where you run into issues is if you built a pole barn and you also wanted to have part of it be a machine shop, and so what we're technically supposed to do then is when you bring in those building plans and you say, okay, over here we're having, the hay storage, and on this side we're putting in, a concrete pad and we'll have a machine shop. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to factor what the loan is. So if it took you, $60,000 to put up this brand new barn, including both parts, but only half of it was supposed to be for hay storage, we basically say the eligible loan quantity is only $30,000 because half of that structure is not intended for hay storage, which is the purpose. So it would limit how much money we'd end up loaning you for that structure. But if you're using both parts for two separate storage of eligible commodities, that rule wouldn't come into play. So as long as it's all for storage of a given commodity, that wouldn't be an issue.
Are animals a commodity?
Not until they're hanging up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no.
you couldn't have hay storage in, say, 60% and maybe 40% for the animals, just to make it easier to feed out.
I think we'd probably do some sort of factoring in that case if you were doing a whole new storage structure. If you already had sort of an existing hay barn, and it was an older style building where you've got sort of a loft up above and you've got feeding down below, and you need to put on a new roof on that structure to sort of keep your hay dry, that would be a different story. But if you're building a whole new barn, which is going to be half hay storage, half, for housing animals, we'd probably still factor that loan and say you're only eligible for the portion that's going.
X%.
Do you have any other sort of specific questions for either Chris or I, for what FSA would look for as part of applying or coming in to the office or something like that?
I don't think so, because you've got all the information on the slides,
Pretty
I
much.
think. So we would, if we had a more specific question, we would contact you.
Okay.
I guess, I mean, I talked briefly to Chris about this before, it's just the ownership part. He owns the land, the deed is in his name, pretty much everything else is in the name, but I'm the one who does, 75% of the work. He helps when he can, but I take care of the animals, I do all of that. Where is it where you would need so much information from him and then the remainder from me?
So sort of how you've got your business structured.
I guess in a way, yeah.
You know, it's not a formalized structure because you're doing some things, you're providing land, capital, and you're providing other stuff. Chris, you don't have any sort of a formalized thing. I mean, we've got 902s, and if you're loaning them money, they don't have to come in and fill out a 902.
Right.
So I'm not sure how you sort of handle that. On our side for farm programs, we've got specific program eligibility rules, which sort of spell out when we're looking at a farm operation, how is it structured, who's contributing land, labor, capital, some of these different things. And these rules are sort of meant to guide us in saying, okay, even if this isn't necessarily a formalized entity, this is how the business is structured. So what it sounds like to me you've got is sort of a joint venture, So you don't have an EIN number, you've just got 2 social security numbers. Any profits that you've got, might be divided up 50%, 25%, something like that,
Really all going back into the animals, it's not,
But hypothetically,
Right.
you're sharing in the potential risk or profit of that operation. So I would say you're sort of one operating entity, which is a joint venture. So when you come into an FSA office, what you want to bring is, your social security numbers, and we'd have you fill out what's called a 902. So basically it's a farm operating plan. And in our office, Suzanne is the program technician, and she'd ask you a whole list of questions saying, who contributes land to the operation, who's contributing capital, who does the active labor in the operation, do you contribute management? If so, what sort of management? Financial management, management of animals, things like that. And so we'd sort of compile all this information and we say, okay, here's how you're structured, and I'm not sure, with loans it would be different because you're not reporting anything necessarily. But you guys aren't reporting anything to IRS with interest payments, right?
We're not, but the way that we see it, and again, there are areas where the farm program and the farm loan don't always line up. So we could do it 2 ways. You could be co-applicants, so you are both applying with us for the same loan, you're both equally liable for repayment, you can both pledge security for collateral. But to do that, because we can only loan to the operating entity, you would both have to file a Schedule F. So you might, if you're 75-25, you might put 75% of the income and expenses on a Schedule F for you. You might put 25% on a Schedule F for you of income and expenses. And people do that. So that's one way. Or you could do it as you're the applicant, you file a Schedule F, you've got the income, you've got the expenses, you could lease the facilities from him, and you could just help with labor and provide additional input as needed. You could do it primarily as you, the applicant, and then again lease the facilities, and he could pledge additional collateral. You don't necessarily have to be an applicant to pledge collateral, and so there's ways it can be done with your scenario, because we've got people out there that do it. It's just a matter of, again, finding, because we got such a unique situation, finding a way to do it and keep it within the rules. And we don't, you know, as far as, again, the conventional lenders wanting that more collateral, if we can come up with enough that you can pledge, you know, without using real estate or something, then that's awesome. And again, it doesn't have to be, we're not going to take your personal car as collateral or anything like that, but, you know, it doesn't have to be just you as the applicant has to come up with all the collateral. Someone else can pledge some if it's, we can find it.
And another difference is Chris sort of is looking at whether or not you're filing a Schedule F
Yeah.
on some of that. Farm storage facility loans, none of the farm programs have any requirement of filing a Schedule F as sort of a way of proving that you're a commercial operation. You know, basically you're proving that you're a commercial operation by filing this 902 form with us and giving us this information about your operation. So there are definitely differences in terms of how farm loan and farm programs see things somewhat.
Yeah.
So,
It's the government. You couldn't expect it all to mesh
no,
well.
it doesn't. Not within the same handbook.
Right.
You know?
You mentioned about our situation seems to be like a joint venture. Do you look at corporations, if you incorporate or an LLC differently, or is
So-
it better to be that way, or no advantage?
It doesn't make a difference to us as long as you do it legally. So if you're going to incorporate or if you're going to form an LLC, you have to file with the Department of State. You have to have articles of operation, you know, and you have to do it in a legal manner. But as long as you do it, that's fine. It makes no difference to us what your business setup is, structurally.
For farm program side, sort of, you know, we want you to have sort of a consistent, you know, way you're reporting that you're operating. So, you know, you can't say we're both operating separately as a corporation on the same exact land and as a joint venture, because we've got certain payment limitation rules that come into play. You know, as far as, you know, payment limitations go, in some ways for some programs, not that you'd hit the payment limitation, but we view joint ventures and general partnerships as being entitled to slightly more money overall versus a corporation based off our payment limitation rules. So a corporation is sort of viewed as one single entity, whereas the joint venture has multiple people. So you'd be limited to different total amounts within a certain year for certain programs that we offer. Like that LIP program that I was saying. So if you had tons and tons and tons of sheep and you lost thousands of lambs, you know, you might be compensated more if you were a joint venture than if you were a corporation. But I wouldn't say that would be a reason to form a corporation versus a joint venture. You know?
Thank you. Jot down our information.
Yeah.
Business card.